Good morning, friends. This is Roger Spear from Church of the Good Shepherd, and I have another art project for you today. This one, we're going to work on the parable of the Good Samaritan. And rather than doing a literal art piece about the Good Samaritan, I thought that we would do something where we could show the kindness and compassion of the Good Samaritan to somebody else. So what we're going to do is make a little symbol with our art and our ability, our time, and our patience, and we're going to hopefully start a movement. We're going to see how this goes, but we're basically going to just do virtual high fives. And we're going to give those out to people in a way that's safe within quarantine rules, and we're going to make them pretty and beautiful, and we are going to get started right now. Okay, friends, to do this picture today, we're going to start with a pencil, and then we are going to go to a Sharpie. And then we're going to go to a collection of your favorite crayons. These are my kindergartner's twistables that I have removed from his room to come with us. I also have traditional crayons here if we want to use those. We're going to get started. This is just regular printer paper. And we're going to begin with our high five. And so that is however you want to do it. Hands together, fingers together, fingers apart. I like doing fingers apart just because it fills out the paper better. And what I do when I'm doing my little hand stuff, you know, we've always done this, is start from the inside and pull out. It's always the pushing in that is more difficult for me on the fingers. So go in and pull out, and then we're gonna connect this together. And so the words we're gonna use today are a high five for you, exclamation point. And then we're going to ask them to pass it on, comma, NEIGHBOR. Okay? And we're going to do a hashtag down here, because I think it'd be cool. Hashtag DIOGA, Diocese Georgia, D, digital, VBS. So DIOGA, Diocese Georgia, Digital Vacation Bible School. All right. And so the idea is when you hand it on to somebody, you can say, hey, will you take a picture of you and your high five giving it to somebody else, post it, tag it, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do with this, because I'm going to be using crayons on this piece. I'll show you a couple sets about markers, but we're going to work today on blending crayons, which is just a really fun little exercise. So to do that, though, we need to have our lines drawn that we're going to color in. So when it comes down to text, one of the easiest ways of doing text is just when you outline it, then you go over it a second time, except you don't worry about trying to make it perfect. So you have these, see how I've got lines next to lines. And what I'm doing is I'm just letting my natural handwriting make how these letters are going to look. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video, and you want to, if you're younger, practice your letters and your letter making skills to get a high five for you, exclamation point. If you're older, then you want to try this process and see if you can get some actual calligraphic artistic expression of the letters. So I'm going to pause the video and we'll go from there. So I've got the top part done here, and I wanted to zoom in a little bit on how this actually works to help you. So you see I've done the word neighbor, and then I've drawn right over top of each of the letters, and I've been a little bit sloppy about it so that I can get kind of a natural thick and thin of the different lines. And so what I'm going to do is just really gently, with like small little strokes, is I'm going to fill in the gaps between those two different lines. And that's what's going to make my letters have some depth to them, have some weight to them. So here's this H is a great. So I'm connecting these lines, filling in the center there. And I'm going really nice and slow. And be as comfortable as, but you can't be too slow because what happens is your hand will start shaking the more you go slow. Okay, so once we have our text on, we're going to want to do the same thing with outlining our hand. And one of the things I didn't mention with the pencil part, go back to my pencil, we're going to draw lines coming out from our hand. Go right over top of your letters. And what this will do is just give us some room and some divisions that we can put color down on and not have to worry about coloring the entire background. In the end, for me, this entire paper is going to be filled with color. So I'm going to go ahead and line out along my hand. And I'm going to do that just by bringing my marker along the edge, and then I'm going to go over it again. And you see how I've got these gaps in between here and here. So I'm just going to gently come back and fill those back in. And what that does is it gives me kind of a natural variation of thick and thin lines. It just makes it look cool in the end. So I'm going to go all the way around this, and I'm also going to fill in these divider lines here the same way. Just go right down it again, 2 lines, and then fill in any white space in between the 2 lines. And there you go. All right, so I'm going to do that, and I'll come back and see you in a minute. Okay, so we're going to draw a line here, stop at the A, pick it up on the other side, draw a second line next to it, and that makes the divider here. You see I've outlined these fingers. I'm going to come down along beside it. Oops. Along beside it. And if you see this little bump sticking out, I don't like it. So I'm just going to come right beside it, cover that up. It's okay if this gets a little bit thicker. And second line around and just fill these in. And it's okay. You see, mine aren't like, they aren't smooth. They aren't perfectly, they aren't perfect curves. It's the humanity of the thing that we're going for. We want people to know this is hand drawn. We don't need to make it look like it was a computer or something that did it. So just fill in those lines. And then when it comes up to the letters, I'm going to stop and pick it up on the other side. There we go. That's called inking. That's the inking phase. So if you look at most artwork, there is a pencil phase. That's what we did. There is a sketching phase. I'm sorry. Then there's a pencil phase where that sketch is made a little bit more refined. Then there is an inking phase, and then there is a coloring phase, and then there is a shadowing phase. And so we're going to do some different things about that throughout the course of the week with our videos. So what we want to do first is talk a little bit about color. You know color. So we've got red and orange and yellow. We have green. We have blue. And we have indigo violet, which is a purple color. So here's our 6 colors. What we want to do is look at them in terms of how to partner them. I usually, for this one, I'm only going to use pairs of colors. And so I'm either going to use pairs of warm colors, which are red, orange, and yellow, or pairs of cool colors, which are green, blue, and purple. Or maybe I'll use pairs of primary colors, red and yellow, or, I'm sorry, that was blue and yellow. Red and yellow, blue and red, blue and yellow. Or maybe I'll just do analogous colors that are next to each other, so yellow and green. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my colors out here, and I'm going to put them in that Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And that way it kind of gives me a notion on how I'm going to make partners to them and what color I'm going to choose for which. Okay, so each of these lines on the outside here is just these little triangular parts of what we're going to be using with color. I'm going to leave this blank in the center because at the end of all this, I like the contrast of all this color to just blank space in the middle. But we'll get to that when we get there. So I'm going to start with red. These twistables are a little bit better quality than the traditional crayon. The regular crayon has lots more wax in it than these twistables do. These twistables also have a richer pigment, I guess you could say. You can get deeper colors with them. So when I do these coloring with crayons, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it straight up and down to the paper. You'll see on this one, I've got like the tip of this is almost flat. And I do that intentionally because as I'm pushing down on the red, and I'm pushing really hard right now to get it as deep red as I possibly can. I'm not gonna, if I were pushing it from the side, there's a chance that I could push down and break the thing at the tip, and I don't want to do that. So by holding it up and down straight, you don't have to worry about it snapping from you pushing too hard. The worst case scenario is I use this red, this guy, and I push down so hard, I actually push the paper right off of him. So that's kind of fun. So if I'm looking at it in terms of a scale, like 3, 2, 1. 3 is pushing down as hard as I possibly can. 2 is letting the crayon itself and the weight of my hand just gliding along it. And you see the difference. There's a lot more white space on a number 2 than there is on a number 3, right? And then a number 1 is actually trying to lift up so that the tip of the crayon just grazes the paper. And you'll see there's a lot more white, a lot more texture on that. And so then we come back through. So if 3 is pushing super hard and 2 is not so much, then I'm gonna go right in between the two of them with like a 2.5 and just work, not pressing as hard as the what I'm shading from. So I'm not pressing on a 3, I'm pressing more towards a 2 to make this blend look seamless. And then I'm not pushing at 2, but I'm pushing more at a 1 to make the 2 and the 1 look seamless. Now, when using these crayons, the way that these pigments work, you're gonna have to put the dark colors down first, okay? So, and I'll show you on a different piece of paper here. If I were to put red, this is me pushing at a 3, me pushing at a 2, me pushing at a 1. On this page is a different paper than this stuff. And I'm coming back in to blend those. Okay, if I come over top of that with the yellow, so here's my yellow crayon, pushing at a 3, still pushing at a 3, now I'm pushing at a 2, and now a 1. Going back over it all, trying to blend it together. You'll see that the colors, the lighter color picks up the darker color beneath of it, and it actually kind of, you get some nice oranges and stuff in there, okay? So maybe I'll add a little bit more red. But when you add more red, I'm going over top of the yellow, the red won't blend with the yellow, it'll cover it. So here's the yellow, if I put red on top of it, it doesn't have those nice blends that's up here. It's red, 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 and then you stop and it's yellow, okay? So the rule is then you wanna put darker colors down first with crayons and then lighter colors on top of them. So here's my red, and I'm gonna pick up and do an orange next. This is me pushing at a 3, so I'm pushing pretty hard. I'm gonna go along the edge of the paper and get all my 3 area down. I'm pushing flat. Now the other reason I hold these flat is that when you get into these areas that you need a fine tip, some people will just use a sharpener and sharpen, 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 sharpen. But with this method, you take the flat end of the crayon and then you start holding it. You don't hold it up and down anymore. You hold it like a pencil, and you've got the edge of that crayon to use as a sharpened point. And when it gets too thick, you want it to you want it sharper again, you just twist the crayon a little bit and you've got a whole new sharpened edge that can get right up into those lines. And then we go back to the flat and we push. So we do the edge stuff, the edge areas first. That way we don't have to worry about coloring, pushing hard right up into the line. I'm pushing the orange right over top of the red so the two of them blend. The rest of these areas, you just play with different colors. So red and orange are analogous colors. They're right next to each other on the color wheel. Maybe the next time I'm gonna do red and yellow, or maybe I'll do, I don't know. I'm just gonna play with it and see. I've got all these different colors, and I've got more of them over here that I can choose from in order to make this as colorful as I want it to be. So, the key to being a good artist is patience. That's all it is. The more time you spend on this, the more you focus on this, the more you let it like take up your time and put your effort, your time, your mind, body, heart, soul, and strength into this, the better it's going to look. And I know it's just crayons, but it's a lesson for all things. The longer you take, the more time you put into it, the more careful you are about a thing, the better you get at it. So I've been doing this thing with these twistables, but I wanted to show how it works too with the traditional crayons. So I've got these colors nice throughout the entire piece. And I'm gonna fill in this bottom part, I want to think about it like the earth, more grounded and more earth tones. So I've got a brown and a gray. And when you look at these two, the brown actually has a darker pigment to it than the gray does. So I'm going to start with the brown, and I'm going to come along up top here and straight up and down, pushing really at a number 3 level, pushing really hard. Now, the thing is with traditional crayons, they're much more waxy. So you're gonna have a lot of, so I've got some marks and things here from the Twistables, but with these guys, there's gonna be a lot more residue as you push. The harder you push, the more wax will actually come off. I'm just gonna come around to pass it on. This is a 2 pressure. Here we got with the gray, I'm gonna do a 3 pressure along the bottom of the paper with my gray, and then a 2 right on top of the brown. Now I will say that even though these crayons are a little bit messier, these are dollar store. I think I got these at the dollar store, Rose Art, you can get them anywhere, but they do blend not easier, but just simpler than the Twistables did. Twistables, I had to work and kind of layer the lighter color on top of the darker color more. These guys, you can actually see them kind of smearing together and creating new colors. So here's the difference. You can tell the tooth of the paper, the texture of the paper, comes through with the waxy crayons far more than it does the Twistable crayons. So, I mean, it really is what you have laying around the house already, you know? We had both of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this out, and we'll see how it ends up. Okay, so here we are with the end. Didn't take me too long to do this. It might take you no time. It might take you all day. Either way, I was very patient with the blends of my different colors. I ended up going for a cool, warm, cool, warm, cool, warm, cool kind of mode. Because once you get the idea of those 6 colors, the Roy G. Biv, it makes it a lot easier in choosing colors. And so if you wanted to be able to not have to, if choosing colors brings you anxiety, Roy G. Biv is a really easy way of mixing and matching colors so it doesn't have to, okay? So pass it on, neighbor. Now here in the center, you could do all kinds of things. You could actually take a knife or a pair of scissors. You could cut out this hand and put maybe like magazine clippings behind it to come through. You could write poetry in this. Every finger could have its own line of scripture even, and you have a central part in the center. What if you wrote something here and left the rest of it blank and let people, as they pass this piece of paper around, they write their own messages in, and see if you can fill up the hand and encourage people to post it on social media with the hashtag there, and we'll be able to see it. So this becomes, I mean, this is one of those great things that could become a movement. But here it is, our digital high five, so we can be good neighbors, to go and do likewise, and to spread a little bit of love, kindness, and compassion in our world. So I hope you get a good high five, and I hope you pass it on, and I hope you get a good response to your work. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.